Hey, everybody. So, this is take two for those of you out there. You don't know that we already did all this. So, this is going to be a revamp. We did the Zitz probe, we did the dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. So, hold on to your horses. I'm S.A. Baz Collins here for this week's Written on the Edge, Season 11, Episode 10 interview. We'll be getting to know our author, Mike Player, better and talking about the recent release, Utopia. So, let's welcome our guest. Mike Player is a comedy writer, actor, and author. He is the creator slash executive producer of MTV's Logo Network series, The Outlaugh Festival on Wisecrack, something I do remember. He is the founder of three comedy groups, Shock of the Funny in New York, and the Gay Mafia, and Angry Daddies in Los Angeles. He is the editor and contributor to Out on the Edge, America's Rebel Comics, published by Alyson Books. He is the author of several published science fiction and horror short stories, as well as comedy and suspense novels. Viral, the story of the Milkshake Girl, and Hyperloop to Hell. His most recent novel is a queer comedy western called Utopia. Mike, thanks for doing this again.
No problem, Baz. I feel like we're closer than ever now.
Girl, I want to put something in my drink.
Yeah, well, be careful what you put in there.
Yeah, that may be part of the problem.
Maybe.
All right.
Uh,
So, for those who are wondering who you are, although I do remember your wisecrack, that was great stuff. Um, how did you get started on the path of writing, and was it born out of all the comedy stuff that you were doing? How did it all start?
I've always been writing. So even as a kid, I wrote. As I mentioned to you, I wrote a novel as a kid called, I don't remember what it was called, but it was about a hamster, and my mother typed it up, 10 pages. So, and then I got, bored and got a hula hoop or something, which were great, in my day. I just dated myself, didn't I? So, yeah, I've always been doing that. I mean, I guess that it's some sort of genetic, problem that I have. And as I've all in high school, I wrote stuff and put them in folders and passed them around to people like I imagined they'd want to read. So, I mean, some sort of disorder that I have. That's what I always have done. So, and I probably keep doing it until the end. It's weird. It's just weird.
Well, I mean, I've always said for us queer writers that Endora is our muse and she likes to fuck with us. So you never know when that shit's going to happen.
I know.
Right? Okay, so tell us a bit about Utopia. If I walked up to you at a book kind of conference or gathering, and I saw your book cover, you want to show it?
Oh,
What
okay.
what would you? And I asked you what was it about? What would you tell me? What's the elevator pitch?
All right, here I'm doing the
There you go. And you do your
um
Vanna White. All right.
yeah, poor Vanna, I don't do her justice. Let's see if I can do this. Four mismatched colleagues leave their troubled lives behind and seek out the undiscovered mythical utopian community of Utopia, which is not exactly right. But that's the story.
Okay. Well,
That's
how I don't know, first of all, what time period? We're saying Western, so I'm figuring
oh,
1800s.
1856. 1856.
And
I don't know why.
what state is Utopia in? Have
It's
you?
in Wyoming,
Oh, okay.
strangely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that just a on the map kind of moment?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it had a little educated thought to it, but mostly that. I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe I read that there were other utopian communities, maybe in Utopia. There were all sorts of, there was all kinds of strange alternative communities that got set up in the West.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
For
it was
real.
much more liberal than people think it was. Well, I mean, at least the part of your life that could not be observed was always much more diverse than what we think of it when we see all the John Wayne movies and stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah, oh forget it.
Yeah,
John Wayne. Oh my God. Talk about Republican.
yeah.
But oh yeah, but like you see pictures from the Old West that are published of saloons where there's no women, and men are dancing with each other. And the captions are always like, well, this is what they did to socialize because women hadn't come out west yet, and you're like, so you look into the photo to see, who the gay ones were, because of course there were one or two in there going, this is heaven,
Yeah,
and
there were tons of pictures from that era of just two men, and in even in photo shoots of the day where they are quite embracing of one another. And that I think that a lot of people just don't give it credit for what it is, but those of us with a queer eye kind of look at it and go, yeah, girl, I
well,
clocked that.
have you seen those YouTube channels that are like they have old photos,
Yeah.
queer photos, and I forget the titles of the channels, but every so often I'll look in and and they throw everything in there. It's not an AI thing, but they throw everything and clearly some of them are brothers or something and or
Although you
friends.
can't be too sure because, the whole trope about, gay men end up dressing alike and looking alike and, they look
Uh,
like brothers, is kind of
okay,
thing.
you're right. You're right.
So, you never know.
You'd never know, but you look at it and it's and now I lost my point. Why was I? Oh yeah, so those channels exist. Oh
Yeah.
no, because it's always been dismissed by the
Yeah. It's straight
normative.
washed.
Yeah, straight wash. They're always like going, that's being a man was different then. And you're like, no, it wasn't. Like Lincoln slept in the same bed as
Uh,
this favorite general, and that's just what they did. It's like, no, it's not just what they did. Or that's how they kept warm. And it's like, no, they had hot water bottles. Just stop it. It's
and
like
bed warmers
yeah, I mean, like the whole thing with Lincoln, and I'm going to go off on that, but it's like, he slept in the same bed for 2 years
with
with
Joshua
Jen.
Fry. Joshua
Yeah,
Redford
look at
Fry.
you
Yeah.
knowing all the names. And
Well,
so,
my
and
husband's related to that guy. So that's why I
no
know.
way,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why that's an oh my God, but I guess,
Somebody
but
had to be
so
related to
they,
him.
yeah, so they slept in the same bed for, like I read for, because there's a book I read about it. I forget the intimate something. Anyway, 2 years when he was
Yeah.
studying to be a lawyer,
Hmm.
and they didn't have to. They were in a multi-room dwelling,
Yep. Yep.
and the straight people are like, oh well, that things were like that. And you're like, F
No,
you.
no, yeah, yeah. You want them to be like that, but those of us in the know go, hmm.
And that always drives me crazy about like how we've just like other groups have been, expurgated. Am I using that right? Expurgated. Yeah, I think that's
I
right.
think that's right. Yeah.
I hope so. Or not.
Well, it's like the lovers in Pompeii that they always thought were a male and female couple, and then it turned out when they really dug into it, they
Hmm.
were two men that were clinging to each other. So it's the straight washing of history has been so prevalent, and it's because you had straight cisgendered men running media at the beginning of all of this.
Well, the
And
historians
yeah,
too,
yeah.
these indignant historians, how dare we suggest? And Washington, it's ambiguous. We really don't know, but like there were some things he did and said, and he was persnickety about his pants and stuff I read. And you're like, not that all gay men are persnickety about their pants, but
Yeah,
there are,
most of them don't want him on.
you know, so wow. Well, so we've learned a lot. We've
Yeah,
learned a
yeah,
lot.
absolutely. All right, so how do you bring a gay gunslinger, and is he kind of, give me a visual. Who would he look like if we had to cast him in a movie?
Oh God, who would he look like? Oh, I almost want to say Colin Farrell, but I think he's taller than Colin Farrell, and
Like an
younger
early
Colin.
Montgomery Clift, maybe?
Yeah,
Dark,
yeah, good
dark.
for you. Yeah, although I didn't think he had a hairy chest. I don't think the chest hair matters to my protagonist, but I suppose it's not integral to the story.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so yeah, he's sort of dark and handsome. He has longish sort of dark hair, and he's just sort of an anti-hero-ish guy, but he's in the closet back east in New York, having a underground affair with the senator and living that life. And then he gets exposed, and he has to leave because the senator is threatening him. He doesn't want him to talk. So he hears about this utopian town for people like him and us, and from his best friend, a doctor who is a woman, who's disguised as a man all the time in New York too, because that's how she could get, you know, treated equally.
Well,
So
it's
they
just
go
you know
west.
your little quartet here is just when he says mismatched and quirky and odd, he's really it's a gay gunslinger, a lesbian doctor disguised as a man, a boy pulp fiction writer, and a wannabe assassin. I mean, come on, that's comedy gold right there.
It was fun. Yeah, the boy fiction writer, I sort of was doing Shane, the boy, like the Shane boy kind of thing, but he's enamored with adventure. Only this is a different kind of world that he sees, but uh and then the assassin is just, this poor bozo that gets swept up into, that, and thinks that killing is a profession. I mean, well, some people do, but like, who thinks of it, and he ends up, they're all looking for themselves. They're all unsure of who they really are, and they all kind of develop into different people by the end that they didn't expect. So, um, even the assassin, and so yeah, they all kind of blend, and I paired them off in different ways, and they have arguments and they falling outs, and their lives are at stake. And then they get to Utopia, and there's danger there, unfortunately, too. But it is Utopia.
Yeah, well, I love that. I love that. So, and is it kind of is the humor like in your face? And by that I mean like I forget that movie that defined me, Lust in the Dust with Tab Hunter. Is it in that vein, or is it more of a realism kind of vein, and with just the comedy situations being on woven within?
I think it's more of the latter, because you can't write Lust in the Dust as a novel
It would be
easily.
interesting if you could.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be stuff, or that kind of really far out farce. Like, I was thinking of this, the guy that did, Seth, what's his name, that did the Star Trek,
Seth
other,
MacFarlane
yeah, Seth. He wrote a novel a few years back, a fiction novel, and it got
eviscerated.
eviscerated by the critics.
Oh God.
And I was thinking, wow, he's so talented. What did he do that, so I read there, and a lot of the critiques were that it was just joke after joke, which I understand, because if you come at it, writing a novel is not the same as a stand-up routine or a sketch. And so anyway, back to your question, Utopia is basically realism with a lot of humor, and humor pockets within it, so that you can really believe in these characters. But when I find comedic situations, I go for it. But you can only do it within a certain realm. If you go too far, it's too much, and if you
Hmm.
go too little, it's just amusing. And I
Hmm.
like to be like funny, but what's going to happen next? And I really feel for this person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's hard.
And when you run into good well paced authors who know how to write comedy, because in when you're doing it visually, the timing is, you can work with it in the moment because there's an element of improv to comedy when you're doing it in a live scenario. But when it's in stone, written on the page, you really have to, I think, go through a mental process of woodshedding it just to make sure that the right amount of words are there, that it's not overly wordy, because you'll start to blur the edges of the comedy, that kind of thing. So when you were crafting those comedic moments, did you have to woodshed some of it in your head to
Oh yeah,
try and
yeah.
get it right?
Yeah, well, there's like, for example, there's a chapter which is sort of goes for the comedy more than the others. It's set in Utopia, in a mine, an ore, mining ore, and it's the hairy bears that run this mine. And you could easily go into, Wizard of Oz, oh yeah, or whatever that, the song.
Yeah.
And so, and I do go a little farther there, but like it still has, they have a town meeting set in the mine because it's safe. And And so I have fun with that, but I can't go too far. And was that your question? Because I just drifted
No,
off.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely along the lines of what I was asking because
Okay.
when you're crafting comedy, you know, it is a different monster. It's a different beast, which is why, you know, like one of my favorite authors is T.J. Klune, who did probably one of the best coming out stories I have or sequences in a book that I've ever read, and I read it 4 times in a row because I just found it to be so gut-wrenchingly funny. And when the book was called Bear Otter and the Kid, but it's a wonderful, wonderful book. And he's a great character crafter. I mean, he's brilliant. He actually wrote a book called "Into This River I Drown," and
Wow.
it's a very touching story about a son who loses his father, who he looked up to, and it is one of the most beautifully written books. So he does comedy as well as drama. He does it all very well, and he's just kind of a gold mine. But you know, when you find authors that can put it in stone literally because when it's crafted that way and put on the paper you can't change it, you can't you know, once it's out, that's what it is, you know. So you know, I have to give you props for doing comedy in a book because that's not an easy craft, it really isn't.
Well, no, you're right, but it's also true even if you're not writing comedy. Once it's out in stone. And like if you
Mhm.
re if you make the mistake of rereading it like a year or two or three later, you're like, oh, that was I could have done
You could
that.
just yeah, exactly.
But I mean, there's different kinds of comedy, like, the literary fiction. I really admire people like that, where they have like they're really strong literary um, bent, and yet they're still able to infuse humor. Or like Carl Hyacin is somebody that writes my kind of humor, where he does go into layers of the characters, but many times they're comedic layers based in realism, and um, and it's not joke after joke, but it's situational, and he's successful doing that. I always thought, wow, that I would love to write that. So I sort of started writing like him, and then eventually you find that you're not exactly like someone else, so you want to write your own voice, and
Right.
you know,
You know,
so
and you know, even when and what I often find that's interesting is that people, you know, especially like in queer media where, you know, the sex is present in most cases, but the thing is, there's often an awkwardness and and a funny, a comedic thing that can happen during those sexual situations that I think a lot of authors just bypass because they don't know how to write that. But we've all been there. We've all had situations that were of a sexual nature, and yet something funny kind of happened. And, you know, so we all have those kinds of stories. And I really, you know, the one thing I can give heated rivalry props for is that they let the Ilya character, the Russian, be true. I mean, I was howling at his performance because I know so many Russians being in classical music. I know so many Russians. I know how they are. Know them backwards and he was so spot on with the way he did his humor. I
yeah,
just was
yeah,
so impressed,
right.
but that's also an element that I think that they got right. They wove the humor even into the sexual situations. They knew they had a way of writing that line in there. And I think when you see it and you know it's well done, it also, I think, as authors, it gives us permission to play with those crayons, don't you think?
Yeah, it's but it, I don't the heated rivalry thing is primarily, I mean, there's some humor in it, but primarily dramatic, at least from, but when you're a comedian and you come at like writing a sex scene when you're a comedian is really hard, at least it is for me, because like I wrote one in a book I wrote called Hyperloop to Hell, and there's a, and I I had a sex scene towards the beginning, and I wanted to keep the tone of the book, which has lots of humor in it, but you don't want to write like, I was wearing a clown wig, it's like it's got to be, and then plus sex forces you to be very vulnerable and open, and comedians tend to be all, you know, um, so I was able to pull that off, and I think the humor, there were a few quips that the characters made, but the whole, it's a challenge. I think for me anyway, like, um, I'm flirting with the idea of writing a gay romance short story now because I've never done it, and but it would have to be funny, and it's anyway, it's a whole.
But you should definitely check out Bear Otter and the Kid because, like I said, he did that relationship, and the relationship he ends up in, Bear, ends up being a really off the rails. Like what? That's where it's
Uh,
going. Yeah, and that's what I love about when you find authors that do it well. And what amazes me is sometimes they can fly under the radar for a long time, and then they'll write something that really captures the moment. Um, I don't think he's completely found it yet, but his works are worthy of that. And I think that when you find authors like that, which is what makes me want to read your novels, is that because you want to have those moments when it's on the page. And as an author, I know when I read it and it really works, that is brilliance in crafting because it is not easy. Comedy is some of the hardest thing to master, and whether it's live or whether it's written word or what have you, it's just because you have to know how to tickle the audience in just the right way. And if you're just a millimeter off, it doesn't land. And it's even worse if it's a millimeter off, that you're so close, you could have gotten it, you could have nailed it, but you had like four extra words in that one sentence when the moment strikes. And if you had struck that, it would have really landed. That's when you
yeah.
frustrate the audience. So it can immediately flip on you in the
Oh
craft.
God. Well, I mean, doing live comedy, that's like that. You can always like, I remember doing, I don't know, stand up or a sketch, something written. And if you like you say, if the delivery is even a millimeter off, you even know in your head if you've done it a number of times, like you after you've said it or as you're saying it, you're like, oh, I didn't hit it. And you can even and and the audience will, chuckle, but it's a big laugh. And then you have to deal with I'm talking live comedy now, but then you have
Go
to
ahead.
deal with carrying that around through the rest of the performance
Yeah.
because the critical head part of your head is going, you screwed up. You didn't hit that. You didn't, and you have to shut that up because there's another
You've
joke
got
over
other
here.
ones coming up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and eventually you learn that you have to just
Roll with
that
those
that
punches. Yeah.
yeah, rather than linger. Like doing improv, for example, like if you do something that's flat, the best way to go about recovering is just move on.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on it. Don't make a joke about how flat it was. Just move on. And the audience will most likely forget about it, and that's how you recover. Same with stand-up. Um, and you've seen things in the media too, where people in stand-up have something horrible happens and they just keep going, you know. I guess that's true of any live, even not comedy.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of the Will Smith slap and how they had to keep that show going
Yeah.
after that.
After that whole scenario, and at first you didn't know because they're both comedians. You're like, okay, is this a bit?
Yeah.
It was really awkward for like
Oh my
10
God.
seconds on either side of that moment. You just didn't know what it was playing out. And then for him to completely be real in that moment, you were like, we're doing this here, you know?
Who was the host? Was that Chris
Chris
Rock was
Rock. Yeah.
Oh my God. And so I think of him because I like you have to save the show because
Yeah.
that was like one of the worst things
Yeah.
live.
I
So
just,
what will you say?
yeah, and but it just blew my mind. It's like, dude, most unprofessional thing I have ever witnessed was that
I know.
moment.
Yeah.
And it goes down in infamy. He will never erase that moment ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that as people who craft stories, as we tell these stories, one of the things we're always striving for is to connect with our audiences. and
Hmm.
and we want to craft characters, the naming of characters, the naming of the setting, whether the
Hmm.
setting is a character, how does that happen? It's a very lonely craft, but it's something that if we do it right, it is so rewarding, especially if you get that one email that just gushes about how much it helped them in their darkest moment. It brought them some humor. Yeah. And you really feel like, and I'm just gonna put it out there, I'm sure Mike's gonna agree with me, we as authors love it when you email us and tell us if you liked our work. We
Yes.
love when people tell us that.
It's
Please don't think,
feedback. It's
yeah,
feedback.
please
Yeah.
don't don't think that you're bothering us. We like to hear from our readers. And even if it's something that you didn't particularly care of, that's something that we clock away and we put it back there and we think, okay, maybe if I do that again, I'll just do it a little bit differently. Maybe, so everything is a learning experience. So if you have a love for some author's work, please email them and let them know, or write a review, even better, because those things are important. And as a
Yeah, it's
lonely
true.
craft as it is, we really like to hear from our readers because it lets us know, hey, you're doing something here.
Yeah, because so much, I mean, so much of what we do and all the art, even when you release something on TV or something in the mass media, um, and nowadays, of course, there's comments on everything, so you find out.
Right.
But like the personal things, like a little, like an email to a website or something, every so often you receive one of those, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. Somebody, it mattered to somebody. Because even the mass media, sometimes you put something out and then I've encountered people that were like, oh yeah, we used to watch that all the time and stuff. And I didn't know that. Nobody, these are people close to you, even. You're like, you never said a word. It was all,
You missed a
it's
meeting
weird.
somewhere that they all went to.
I know. I'm always missing meetings. Nobody ever invites me. And I'm not bitter. I'm just not. But I'm not the one. I'm always outside. Let me in. Although maybe I don't want to be in,
Yeah, see,
you know.
there's that element too. Sometimes being the odd bird out is really where you want to be.
I think maybe that's it. Yeah.
Which is probably why you wrote
What
the
was
characters
it?
the way you did.
Yeah, that's why I write all this stuff because it's a psychological,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, think about it.
catharsis.
When Anne Rice wrote Interview with a Vampire, people don't realize she wrote that book to deal with the death of a child that she had who died at a very young age, which is why Claudia, the character Claudia, is the age it is in the book, because that was her way of working through the trauma of losing a child. And at the same time, she was in San Francisco. She had tons of gay friends. So she wrote this story. That's how we got Louis and Lestat. So all of
Oh,
this stuff comes
cool.
from places that a lot of authors try working through. And we just hope that when we're writing it, it will connect with readers. And you kind of have to trust your gut when you're working on something. If you feel it, chances are there's somebody out there that will feel it too.
Yeah, that's very true, I think. Doing queer art or, writing or whatever it is, comedy or whatever, um, is very cathartic
Mm.
for you as an artist. Because I mean, I grew up, my last name was Gay when I was growing up. And so imagine in the 70s and roll call and all of that. And then just being gay anyway. And amazingly, years later, I went, at first my work had nothing to do with being queer, because it wasn't even the market for it, or
Right.
you
Hmm.
couldn't go into a comedy club. Some of the pioneers did, but very few. But then when I was like 35, maybe actually when I was 40, around then it started to open up. And I was able to do my comedy out, and I was able to write comedy sketches that were queer and have them be seen even by straight people. And wow, what a catharsis.
Hmm.
I mean, I wrote, I don't know how many, 50 sketches, all of that theme, all sorts of ways, getting all of this stuff out. And the same is true with the, writing fiction or prose or whatever, music. If you go in that direction, like you say, like with Anne Rice, you work. I think I'm a better, I think
It's our
I'm
form of
healthier.
therapy. Yeah, it's our form
Yeah.
of therapy in many respects.
And so it's a way of coping, and what a wonderful way. And then in addition, if you click with people, like when we did the Gay Mafia and we did comedy and we had audiences, and I did one thing where I played a character called Sergio, who was a retired Navy SEAL, and he had a boy toy, and it was a running sketch, and the boy toy was evil, and it was anyway. So when I was doing one monologue about this evil boy toy in this club, and this guy in the audience, is going, "Yes, tell it." He goes, "Tell it," and I was like shocked. I was like, "Wow." I didn't realize that was going to connect, but there it was. And um, it meant something to me, this man connecting to that particular thing.
Uh,
So,
I have a question here. I just noticed in the notes, this wasn't in our dress rehearsal, so I'm throwing this at him
oh,
here.
all right.
You have a note saying teaching improv comedy to the queer community, growing older as a gay man, and why pit bulls and labradoodles are the same thing. Girl, when I got to that last sentence, I'm like, what?
Yeah. Okay, well, the reason that pit bulls and labradoodles are the same thing is because I don't understand either one of them. These people that have pit bulls that bite your face off, and they have three of them, and they name them things like Debbie, and they say, she's the gentlest thing, she's not. And you're like, it eats babies. Why did you get that? And then the labradoodles, that doesn't make any sense. They're too big, they're vicious.
Yeah, they
They
are.
put bows on them. I know somebody that like it's their child. It's like it's a dog that's been weirdly genetically altered. So I love dogs, but they're the same thing to me. That's my opinion.
And you're
What
sticking
is,
to it.
I guess.
So teaching improv to the queer community, how
Yeah.
did that come about?
Well, I've always taught improv. I mean, I've taught improv for 40 years now. And I love it. And improv is community. It's lots of people love it because it's just a community. And it's many times dismissed as being nothing. And the truth is, there's a structure to it and an art form. And that's how I started my comedy groups from the workshops, and they evolved. But for the queer community, that's how the Gay Mafia and the Outlaugh Comedy Festival started from a class I taught at the community center here in Hollywood, the Gay and Lesbian Community Center. I taught a class in 2001, and I had these wonderful students. They were all queer, and that had never happened again. It was at that time when suddenly this was a thing.
Hmm.
And so
Coming
even
out of the
though
gay
I,
90s.
yeah, and it was, and so it was a deeper, different kind of uh, the characters we'd come up with and the situations were different, and they helped clear our souls. And so they took me out in the quad after the 6 weeks, and this representative, a friend of who's still a friend of mine now, she says we have to keep doing this after it ended. She goes, we have to keep doing this. So I continued teaching a workshop, and then a few years later, I made a performing group out of with some of the people, and went through these iterations. And then it was the Gay Mafia, and then we did the Outlaw Comedy Festival, and it was on TV, and it was like wacky because it started with a little workshop, but all along the way for 10 or 12, well, I think 15 years maybe, I taught the Gay Mafia improv comedy workshop, and it kept that spirit going for different people that would come. And it's good for writers. I had writers that would come in and use it because it frees up your uh, your stream of consciousness. And I just love it. I always do. I don't know what it's a way of meeting friends. You kind of get friends from it, um, everybody nowadays everybody wants community. We're all kind of isolated, and there's fewer and fewer ways to hang out. And this is so yeah. I guess I love the form. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's desperately needed. I think one of the thing we call these things smartphones, but to be quite honest, it's what made us the dumbest society that we've
Yeah.
been. Having all this. I saw T-shirts that said, "You remember when we thought if we had all the information at our fingertips, we would be better humans?" Yeah, that wasn't it. You know?
There's too much. It's too much now. I mean, the
Yeah,
big challenge is to keep from looking at, to keep from knowing. It's too much, and everybody's losing their minds.
yeah.
I don't need to know what somebody that I haven't seen in 15 years did
Had for
last
lunch
weekend.
or had for lunch.
Yeah, yeah, who doesn't ever communicate with me in any way except their fault. It's like that's not necessary to know.
Yeah. Oh, and I think people from our generations, one of the things we recognize is that this is a tool, but it's not the be all end all. And I think that our generations deal with this kind of tech better than the younger generations who grow up with it because they don't know. Leanne Morgan is one of my favorite comedians as of late, and she has this great bit about Gen X, and she says how the Gen Z and Gen Alpha don't know how to read cursive. They don't know how to write a letter. They don't know how to address an envelope. They don't know how to write a check.
Well, they
And
don't
one of
have to.
and her best line is, if Gen Z takes over the world, it's going to be pretty easy to get it back. We'll just write all of our plans on in cursive and mail them to ourselves. And
Exactly.
that's exactly, it just blows your mind that in this information age, so many of us are just writhing in stupidity and ignorance. It just is amazing to me.
Yeah, it's really I mean, it's the whole downfall. It's like I know a lot of younger people and I love them. And actually that to be fair to younger generations, they're not all like that. I know some that hate it too, and they'll say it. But then, it's
Yeah,
and
especially in the dating pool. They're not happy about dating.
well, no, I mean, oh, I can't even. When I was young, obviously there was no internet or anything,
Hmm.
and well, I used to have a joke in my routine was you'd meet men the old-fashioned way behind the bowling alley, which was, but which is a strange joke, but I would have gone crazy if I was 16 and I would have been using those apps even when I wasn't supposed to. I mean, and getting in trouble. I mean, all the kind of mayhem you open yourself, it's all
Well, it's just the
kind of
fact that you
awful.
have all these porn sites and all it says is, "Yes, I'm 18. I can enter."
Yeah,
Child,
right.
you don't think a 13-year-old's going to go, "Yes,"
Yeah, of course.
you know?
Straight, gay, doesn't matter what they
It doesn't
are.
matter. And the amount of absurdity that goes on around, just like with Trump trying to cancel James Tallarico being on the Colbert Show. It's like, bitch, you do know that there is the internet, right? This is
Right.
going to make it out there no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Stopping it on network television. But they're such old thinkers. They don't realize that. You have all these women trying to keep the gay books away from all the children. You don't think they're not going to get it from a friend who's just going to send them the ebook file? Come on. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
they don't get it. It's really strange.
Yeah, I don't know.
But for you, for a comedy writer, that's got to be gold.
Yeah, well, I've written, yeah, you could, there's a lot of stuff you can say about it, like I've got a lot of, tech, I've got some tech themed things I've done recently. I have a chat bot that I do on YouTube called Phony Buddy, which is weird and fun. And then previously I've written some sketches about tech because it's ridiculous, so much of it, and yet that's the world. And it's terrifying where it's headed. I mean, it just seems like it's heading towards an explosion of some kind. I mean, it's not getting simpler,
Yeah, no, I think we're in a lemming gathering. Is what we're at.
and it's all also older people. Even people have this stereotype that older people are like, inept. And the truth is, I know people that are worse addicted to tech at my age and older than younger people are
Uh-huh.
because
We got
many
more
are.
time.
Yeah, we're not working, so it's like
Yeah.
And oh wow. And these stupid watches, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Time to stand. It's like, shut up. It'd be horrifying, you know.
I know.
It's good to know if I'm having a heart attack, but you know what? I will know if I'm having a
Yeah,
heart
you would think, you would think. All right. Well,
yeah.
getting back to your book,
Sorry, yeah.
no, no, no. Is there something that I failed to ask that you do want potential readers to know?
The book is fun. It's just meant to be fun. It goes deep and it's about, outliers and oddballs and lost souls who are trying to find themselves and find their way. And it's about what could be. But even though there's some, uh, some serious stuff in it, it's overall meant to be, you know, a fun escape. So I would say that.
Okay. All right. Well, you ready for our get to know you questions?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. They're gonna be a shocker to him. Anyway,
Oh,
anyways, if before we get to that, just if you can comment, like, subscribe, do all the things that we ask you to view. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/rope podcast, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/rope podcast and make a one-time donation. All of it helps us keep the lights on and keep this going. And finally, you can join our YouTube memberships, which is new, and it's only 99 cents a month, and you get access to all of the queer media reactions I do with Albert Knopflet as he discovers all the gay pantheon of queer media. So, with all of that aside, What book, film, or piece of art has had the biggest influence on your writing style?
Well, I said it earlier. I think it's Carl Hyacint's books. They really have influenced me the most. Like Skin Tight and Sick Puppy, and he's written so many. But I like his style. So yeah, I'll
All
go
right.
with Carl Hyacin.
Okay, great. All right. What fictional historical character or historical character would you invite to march with you at a pride parade?
Well, I want to say Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce
I don't
that?
know. I hear it both ways. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I've heard it both ways. Well, him only because nobody would expect that. But like,
Just
you
make sure
know,
you say it Genghis or Jenghis because you don't want Shaka Khan if that's what you
oh,
You got
look
to
at
be
you.
careful. You got to get your letters right.
No, you're right. Okay, let me take that back. I
Although I don't
like,
know, having Shaka Khan with you on a pride parade might be a lot of fun.
oh God. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. George of the Jungle, Tarzan,
There
something
you
like
go.
that.
Brendan
Somebody like
Brendan Fraser would be cool.
I'm in love with Brendan Fraser
And
as
he's an
I'm
ally of the
married.
community too. So
Yeah, yeah. Did you see it? Of course you did. George of the Jungle 2 to me is the classic. So I would march with him
okay. Well,
if
there
he
you
would
go.
have me.
There you go. All right. If you or your protagonist had to survive a gay bar karaoke night, what song would you belt out?
Hmm. Yeah, that's hard
Now in
because
dress rehearsal, he said "Go Your Own Way" by Fleetwood Mac, but I have a feeling we're going to get a different title.
yeah. Well, initially I didn't understand. I thought this was what one I would want to do. And if it was me, I would do
It's you.
Mandy,
You
but
are they.
I would do Mandy by Barry Manilow because I used to do that when I was 12 and I'd crank it really loud and I don't know how my mother survived that. And I would lip sync that sucker to death. Are you familiar with
Not, yeah,
Mandy?
not. Oh, yeah, I know
Oh,
Barry.
okay.
So yeah, and yet, here we are, some 50 odd years later, and kids are doing Mandy on TikTok. So there you go.
Are they really? I haven't
Oh
seen
yeah,
that.
oh yeah.
Uh,
It was a thing for a while. All these cute boys lip syncing to Mandy.
No way. I
Yeah.
didn't see that.
Oh
Oh my
yeah. You
God.
need to go on TikTok and just search Mandy Barry Manilow, and you will see a bunch of
Because
cutie little boys. It's
you
just,
could work that with song.
uh-huh.
But I did say Go Your Own Way with Fleetwood Mac before, but that would be my protagonist because he was,
Well, it's
you know,
kind of emblematic with what he's going through, right?
yeah, he's a lost soul with, being screwed over in a relationship. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, what's a place, real or imagined, that feels like home to you and why?
Well, I know you'll like this, but I think it's the Bay Area because I grew up there. I really did grow so, and I still like it, even though it's LA-ifying in the South, and it's changed. But
And
maybe
I
I
think that,
haven't been there in a while. Maybe I have to go back and make sure
well,
I really.
yeah, I mean, I think, well, here's the thing. I mean, because of the tech influence, a lot of it got overly gentrified and it's lost some of its quirkiness that it used to have inherent in it because of its, gold rush era, when all the black sheeps of all the Eastern Seaboard families came out this way to try and get rich and stuff. So it had a very
Right.
seedy beginning, and it's kind of kept that quirkiness all the way through, which is why you had the Haight Ashbury, you had all these things that took place in the Bay Area.
Right.
And what I think is interesting is that we've gotten to a point now where a good portion of it has become overly gentrified, and it wasn't because the people who live there didn't want to live there anymore. It was they got priced out.
Yeah.
And that's really the tragedy of the Bay Area. But there's so much in that. I consider those 20 years I lived there, to be some of the most beautiful that I've ever experienced. I remember going to the city the very first time when I first moved there, and I remember not knowing a soul there in that city, and yet I never felt more alive. It was a
Yeah.
city that challenges you, that makes you, and many people don't realize Southern California and Northern California are two very different states.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I live in LA and it's much, much different. But up there, you can go to redwood trees. I mean, I just love
Yes.
the idea of taking a hike through the redwoods.
Yeah.
I mean, just the nature of the Bay Area. Out here, you got to look around, and there's stuff down here, but it's not like up north.
No,
You know.
it's not. It's not. And the Bay Area is so compact in that bay that wherever you're going, whatever you want to do is not that far away like it is
Right.
down here in the South.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's
I'm
true.
in San Diego, and it's like at one point, San Diego and Los Angeles are going to come smack together, and it'll be one big metropolitan city.
Yeah, they may already be pretty close to that, you
Yeah, I
know.
know, I know. You used to have a stretch between Oceanside and Escondido, and then up to like when you started to enter into Rancho Cucamonga, or that whole area strip right through there, that was open, but it's becoming more and more encroached upon. I think we're only probably about 10 or 15 years away before it's
Oh,
one huge metropolitan area.
oh, won't that be delightful when that happens? It's
Build the bullet train now.
Oh
I
yeah,
want
yeah.
out.
That bullet train. Don't get me started. All right.
All right. Well, moving on. What's the strangest or most unexpected place you've ever found inspiration for a work of yours?
Well, I think it would be because I told you I wrote all these sketches for the Gay Mafia, and one sketch I wrote was based on a family holiday meal with my in-laws that I called horror. What was it? Horror holiday meal with the in-laws. And it was these Jim and Tim monogamous gay couple, and that was our characters, and we were like with this couple, and all they served was meat, and the music was like really grim, and they said these like hateful things, but the audience loved it because I think talk about connecting to the audience. And I asked my husband, I said, did that bother you that I that I put that up, and he was cool. He was like, no, that's what it's like. And yep.
Slice of life. And the thing is, for mainstream audiences, it would be funny because they always find our humor a bit interesting because they don't anticipate that we have a lot of the same things that
Yeah.
they go through. It's like we're human. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was always what was fun about, the reactions we'd get sometimes with
Yeah,
these things.
exactly. All right. Well, which themes or motifs do you find yourself returning to again and again in your works?
Writing about people that are outsiders and lost souls and, alienated people. And I think just because that's just how I felt growing up and how I am. And it's very common. So yeah, many of my protagonists suffer from some of that in some degree.
And I think part of it is too that we also like, especially as queer people, we like the drama and the comedy when it's done right because you get that element of humanity that just rings so true for everybody. We
Mhm.
all know that life is full of those ups and downs, that kind of, really, really highlight what being a human is. And I think that that's something that no matter what part of the spectrum you're on, sexuality wise, we just really like to see humanity in others, and that's what we respond to if it's done right.
You made me think though, it's like I think, a lot of straight women, or a large segment of straight women they resonate with gay men or the gay culture or some of the work we put out. And I think maybe because they're also subjugated and alienated in the patriarchy.
Yeah, there's actually a brilliant a woman by her. I think the name of her channel on YouTube is Therese, Therese, and she is a black woman who did probably one of the best responses to heated rivalry and why women are so fascinated by it. And she broke it down. She said it literally is women want to envision a relationship where it's not the woman marrying up. They
Mm.
want to have a relationship where they're seen as equals. And by it being two men, that dynamic is taken out of the relationship so they can envision a relationship that allows them to be true equals with their partner. And that's the fascination for women. They're able to see a different kind of relationship, one that can be playful and sexual and all that stuff, but it doesn't have the element of a woman looking for her knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
She compared Heated Rivalry to Bridgerton. So that was the
Okay.
dichotomy that she
Yeah.
put out, and it's that I when I saw that, when I heard her kind of dissertation on that, I went, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. And
No, that really
I
does.
now see it in a completely different light. And,
Yeah.
before, when I thought it might have been exploitative or that they were, fetishizing our relationships, when I had it in those terms, I was like, okay, I'm getting it now. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
what you girls are seeing in it. And I see that you really are hungry for that kind of equality in your relationships. And
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I had read something a while back too that said that women just like to see men expressing affection for each other because we're so, hey, bro, and pissing contest kind of
yeah, measuring
toxic
dicks. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
masculinity.
Hmm.
So, I mean, but you're right. I think yours is more
I just
informed.
yeah, it was a fast, it was only a 17-minute little dissertation, but she did a really good job of breaking it down, and I completely reset my perception of straight women consuming queer media. I
Yeah.
saw it in a completely different light and went, okay, I'm getting it now. I'm getting
Do you
what
think really that straight men give a damn about queer media? Like you always read like, oh yeah, straight guys, they liked heated rivalry, and you're like, did they? Is
she
that
actually touches on that too as well. She says that her summation is that straight men don't feel threatened by it because it is set in sports, because it is set in a locker room. These are environments that they know where homoeroticism still exists, and they acknowledge it internally. They know that goes on, even with the joking and all that kind of stuff. They
okay?
realize that it's an accepted behavior. So it takes the sting out of being homosexual. So they then, and I've watched several straight guys react to it, and they get teary. They get really, really involved in it, and they buy into them having those kinds of feelings. But I think a lot of men, straight men, want to be able to express themselves, but feel that society doesn't give them that permission,
Yeah, that makes sense.
which is why there's so much alcoholism, so much, drug use. And so there's a lot of reasons why men die at an early age. And because it's a lot of men our straight brothers have to keep a lid on so much of their lives
Hmm.
that they don't have permission, that when they see queer men do it and get away with it and it's permissive, I think there's a part of them that wishes they could be that courageous and that bold in their own lives,
That makes total sense. Would you be my therapist? That
girls.
you, you know stuff. That's so
Well,
cool.
I am married to a guy who was a neuropsychiatrist
Wow.
for troubled youth back in the early 70s, and then it got to be so deeply entrenched in it, he decided he needed a break from it. So he went back to school and got another doctorate in quantum physics and ended up working for NASA. So I live with a man who literally, it's rocket science.
Not intimidating at all.
No, so
Well,
let me tell you, half the time we're watching sci-fi, I turn to him and go, so could
yeah.
this happen?
Yeah, wow. Okay. I mean, all right. I have questions, but I guess I'll ask you some other time.
We'll be offline.
Okay.
All right. Well, finally, the last question. What's a piece of LGBTQ plus literature, culture, music, film, art, or history that never fails to inspire you?
Well, I think I told you once before, it's the Golden Girls writing sometimes. And we have, I know you're going
He's
to
still
want to
not
say,
forgiving me for not being a fan.
I know you want to say soap. And we have, we could get back all into that. But yeah, when the Golden Girls writing is very strong, I don't know why it inspires me, I guess, to see what great comedy writing is,
Mhm.
because I like it. And I know that you think soap is a funnier show. And that's okay,
Part of it is, I think, for me, it was Catherine Hellman. I just adored. I adored her so much.
Yeah.
Even when she makes that small appearance in Overboard with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, I just find her funny as fuck. And I just think that she's marvelous. So I just like her no matter where she shows up.
I
So I
hear
think
you.
that was really and then the fact that it was the first gay character, and Billy
Right.
Crystal really did care about the character. He
Right.
fought against that whole straightening of his character.
Hmm.
He really didn't want to go there, and that's admirable, especially in that time of, so I think for me that was really the real element was, I thought about it in between our break of our dress rehearsal and the real performance, that I thought that, it really boiled down to also Billy Crystal's character being the first time I saw ourselves and we weren't tragic.
I
That
know,
was
like Tony Randall. There was a series hundreds of years ago called Oh Sydney or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
Sydney,
yeah,
did
yeah.
you see
Yeah,
that? And it
uh-huh.
lasted like 4 episodes or something.
They
And he
got
was
ganked
like,
immediately.
yeah, he lived alone and there was no relationships. And that was the extent that they, delved into it. And as a kid watching that, I'm like, I mean, where was the inspiration? It was like, oh, that's what I'd like to be. I'd like
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
loveless. That's what I want.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Sign me
Weird.
up.
Yeah. Thank you, NBC or whatever network that was.
Yeah, I know but and I think it's interesting that Sarah Whit Thomas came in and she actually did something that moved the needle for gays,
Mhm.
and she stuck to her guns. That was the other part of it too.
Mhm.
She really didn't compromise, and I have to give props to her for all the hard work she did,
Mhm.
to put those shows out. And, I'm glad Golden Girls is big. I totally give it its props. It's not something that I take, I will much rather watch Frasier than I would Golden Girls. I would much rather watch, Soap than Golden Girls, but I will watch it if it's on, I'll laugh.
Well,
I'll be
I do
entertained.
feel sorry for you a little bit, but I mean that's okay. You're missing something and it's a shame.
Well,
But it's okay.
like I told you before, thinks I'm a broken gay. So,
Well, we're not going to get into share because I could talk to you about dolls and all sorts of things, but
all
I'm
kinds of
not
things. Yeah.
going to.
Oh, it's okay. I feel you because I had a Linda Carter Wonder Woman doll, and my
No,
dad
you
looked at me like
didn't.
something was wrong with me, and I
Oh,
ended up taking it back, and I fucking regret it, and I blamed my dad for it later.
wow. You
I
took it
said
back, and what did you say? You said this
I
doesn't
would have a
work?
million fucking dollars for that fucking thing now. I mean, like
Yeah,
those
you
things are
could.
so rare because they didn't sell well back then.
I can't believe you took it back. Oh
I
my
took it back because
God.
I was so. But what's weird is my father. This is really going to blow your mind. My father, who's native, who came from the reservation, when he knew when my mom was pregnant with me before she did, he told her that he knew she was
Whoa.
pregnant, and he also told her that he knew I was going to be gay. They didn't say gay. I forget what term he used, but it was a more of a native reference to what a the gay person would be in a native situation, and he told my mom those two things early on. And so he spent the rest of his life watching me grow up to see those signposts along the way. And
Wow.
yeah. And so, and I think I confused the hell out of him because in my bedroom, I looked like any other teenage boy. I had posters of Linda Carter everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. I adored that woman. I had her album. I mean,
Oh, her
I went
album.
I went all 9 yards,
You
man.
went all the
I was
way.
all in. And then when it really was confirmed when my dad and I had the talk, he just kind of know there was a confusion on his face of, well, why do you have all her pictures? So I'm like, girl, you just don't understand.
You don't
She's
understand.
Wonder Woman.
But how weird that he understood, to know ahead of time and to watch for the signs and sounds like he was accepting. But,
He
the
was.
cultural thing he didn't get. It was like interesting
Yeah,
dichotomy.
yeah, to see it through his eyes was really fascinating to me because I
Well,
thought
how
about it
lucky
afterwards.
you were to have a
Yeah,
father that sounds like he was receptive,
yeah,
I mean, how
yeah. He
cool.
was very good. He loved. He never judged people. He judged you on your character, but as you were now. He didn't care. Like you could be a hooker, you could have been a junkie, but it's how you came to him at the moment that's what he would judge your character on. He wouldn't allow your past to color who you were at then because he always saw your life as a journey. So I always try to employ those things that he taught me,
Wow.
And
Nice.
yeah, I mean, one of the greatest lessons he ever taught me was life is like a walk through the woods. Some people will join you on that walk and they'll be part of your walk and you will
Yeah.
share parts of your life with them. And then they'll see something shiny and they will move away and find
Right.
and go pursue that. And it's not because you had a falling out or anything, it's just their journey goes somewhere else in the forest.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so when you look at it that way, you kind of give people permission more than you would if you didn't have that perspective. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I just
anyways,
that's so cool.
yeah. Well, thank you for going through our list. You made it all the way through.
Oh, did
Bravo.
I?
Yeah.
Oh,
For the second time, people.
oh.
Let's remember that.
You know what? I have had so much fun talking to you that I don't mind. Maybe a third time is a bit much because
Yeah,
I have
no.
to,
And I've been watching that red dot this whole time.
but twice is fine. I'm totally fine.
He is such a professional, people. I'm telling you. All right. Well, is there anything else that you would like people to know about future, maybe readings or something that's going on? And if not, and you do have those down the road, where's the best place for people to follow you?
Well, I'm about to take a little vacation. So right now, the best place to follow me is mikeplayer.net. And I have a newsletter, and my socials are there. And I'm working on some short sci-fi horror stories. One is being released in a couple of weeks to my newsletter people. First, that's their perk. And then I do my YouTube channel with my chatbot Phony Buddy. So that's sort of an experiment, but we'll see it. We'll see what novel I come up with next. I don't know. I never really totally know what my new projects will be, but I'm going to go to Palm Springs and lie around for a few days and relax.
You're gonna be a mid-century modern.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be. I need to be that right now.
Yeah, okay. I do not begrudge you that.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, is there any last words of wisdom that you want to give to our listeners or potential readers or even authors out there that are aspiring authors?
Oh, well, aspiring authors, I would say that you should um, go after, don't, Jesus, I don't know what I would say to aspiring authors. I used to know. I don't know. Have a memory. No, no, no. Go if you're gonna, just write what you think is the right thing. Don't let other people tell you what to write. And and keep at it. And then in terms of in general, everybody should just try to keep laughing and have humor in your lives because we so need that right now.
Mm.
Don't look at the news too much and just stay happy and funny as best you can.
Yeah, yeah, that part right there.
Yeah.
That part. All right, everybody. Well, we'd like to send a huge thank you to Mike Flair for doing this yet again. Thank you
My
so much.
pleasure. I loved it, Baz. Thank you.
All right. Well, we at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. If you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. This show is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, or listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.ropepodcast.com and tune in next week for your queer media fix. Especially if I hit that fucking record button. Bye, kids.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.